What if local media thought like a SaaS company? That's a provocative question Todd Handy is asking and answering in today's episode of E&P Reports. Greetings, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. Welcome back to another episode. Todd, welcome to the program. I've known you a long time. I mean, since what? The pioneer days of digital marketing and all that, right?
That makes us both sound really old. We'll say we've known each other for a long time, you bet.
Okay, Todd is a seasoned digital revenue strategist, deep experience in media, SaaS, and BPO. He's led digital transformation efforts at companies like Deseret Digital Media, where you won numerous awards, and I saw you on countless stages. Beasley Media Group, great company. MarketStar, where he specialized in building recurring revenue streams and performance-driven sales teams. He also still serves on the board of Local Media Association. You're still on that board, aren't you? You're still shaping the way of local media. And now you're a consultant, fractional executive, helping organizations rethink growth using SaaS principles. Define SaaS for us. What does it, for those who don't understand the acronym, please, Todd.
Sure, Mike. So SaaS is simply software as a service. Most folks would know it by the different types of platforms that you use on your PC. So it might be Monday.com that you're using for project planning. It might be Dropbox that you're using to store different files and so forth. Frankly, it could be Google Drive or anything else. It doesn't have to be a smaller company. It could be a very large company. It's all of this. It's at the end of the day, it's driven in the cloud, right? But SaaS software really has some great principles that industry has used to grow itself, and that I'm thinking we ought to be thinking about from a media standpoint as well.
Well, coming up, Todd's going to unpack how churn, CAC, customer acquisition cost, and customer success could revolutionize your local media business, and why the future of publishing might just look a lot more like software. Stay with us. We'll get to that on the backside of this message.
This episode of E&P Reports is exclusively sponsored by Blocks Digital, formerly Town News. Even though the name has changed, their commitment to the media industry is as strong as ever. Blocks Digital is now even better positioned to deliver integrated solutions like content management, audience development, advertising revenue, video management, and more. Join the over 2,000 news publishers worldwide that power their ongoing digital transformation with Blocks Digital, serving over 141 million monthly users who view over 6.5 billion pages of content each year. You can trust Blocks Digital to empower you, to connect you at scale with the community you need to reach. Blocks Digital, formerly Town News, now reimagined to help meet the news publishing challenges of tomorrow and beyond. Learn more at blocksdigital.com.
Okay, so Todd, treat me like I'm an infant, please. What does it mean for a local media company to start thinking like a SaaS business? Give us that elevator pitch, if you don't mind.
Sure, you bet. For those who haven't spent any time in SaaS, it's probably a great place for us to start. SaaS companies really adopt a recurring revenue customer lifetime value mindset instead of something that's transactional, something that's a once and done sale. Too often we do that in media where we sell in the campaign, the 3-month campaign, and we're happy with that. Don't get me wrong, revenue is revenue and we're happy to have the revenue. But every time an advertiser churns, it's that much harder to win them back. It's also harder to win back others in those same verticals or folks that they've told about their experience and so forth. SaaS companies focus on retaining customers through constant value delivery, product evolution, and lifecycle engagement.
Well, how would a SaaS-style focus on recurring revenue change local media's approach to just selling ads? And again, how you said, the virtual, I should say this, I sold 1 million of them, those one-off campaigns when I used to go into a market and sell those 3 or 6 month contracts. I mean, how does this really change the paradigm, Todd?
Sure. I've been as guilty as anyone else out there of selling campaigns that were short term, right? Certainly we would say, listen, if you're not going to do it for at least 90 days, it doesn't make any sense because you've got to give it some time to get the reach and frequency and everything else we talk about in media, okay? That certainly is still part of it. But in a media world, what that would do, it would flip the model from short-term campaign fulfillment to long-term revenue continuity, right? Instead of focusing on selling any discrete ad units, right? This 300 by 600 banner, this SEO campaign or whatever. A SaaS approach really bundles the services into a monthly, hopefully monthly, maybe a quarterly package, and it's tied to client KPIs as awareness or engagement, leads or sales, right? That's what SaaS is doing. Is when you buy a platform like a Dropbox or Asana, you don't buy it for a month and then stop, right? You buy it and you use that. You build it into your workflow and how you do your business. We know that's what we need to do with advertising, right? We shouldn't stop and start advertising and so forth. Yes, maybe if where I'm in Utah, if you're a ski resort, maybe you only advertise 6 months of the year. I get that, right? But most advertisers need to be advertising on a regular basis. And SaaS is something that when you buy it and you keep it in place. And then the business on the back end will do a lot to keep you in place. And we can talk more about that.
Well, to use that old metaphor, there's a lot of legs on the stool to get to that wonderful, sustainable business model for local news publishing. So let's switch from advertising to reader revenue, if I may. And maybe you've been following the reporting we've been doing recently at E&P. Recently, a major INMA report came out about how paywalls are stifling audience growth. Burrell just issued a report where he's calling it the tipping point of local media. One of the things he said in the report is that newspapers are the only legacy media that has been stagnant in digital growth over the past 5 years. And he's thinking it might be due to the fact that we're the only legacy media that still locks down our audience. We've also had people spout off now saying in very interesting political times, is this the time for local media, that final check on power in a Madisonian democracy, to only hit a small percentage of the audience due to paywalls? Does this SaaS style of thinking help in the subscription model as well, getting a better recurring relationship with our readers?
So Mike, I want to be really clear on one thing, because most folks who are out there who know me know I'm a much more of a revenue guy than an editorial guy. And so I'm going to speak from my viewpoint, but I certainly don't have the chops and all of that experience. But yeah, my thought process is this, all right? If we're thinking through the entire customer journey, this is what SaaS companies do. They think through this customer journey from the very beginning all the way through, because one of their focuses is on LTV, customer lifetime value, right? So you're thinking from the onboarding emails to the nudges that you get in your software for different usage, or an email that you might get for things that you're not taking advantage of in the software and so forth. The value reinforcement, the community building, everything that can go into preventing churn and so forth. So if we come at it from that standpoint, this is not me saying the content and so forth, because that's not what I'm good at, right? But the business model, if we're thinking through that lifetime value from very beginning till however long we're able to keep them, and then offering tiered plans, things that can align with reader segments. So your casuals, your cores, your super fans, or bundling in non-news type of products, podcast extras, event access, or local deals, things like that. The biggest thing that I think media companies need to do, that SaaS companies absolutely do, is investing in data to understand why subscribers are churning, and then to build proactive retention campaigns. So let me give you a perfect example. In the SaaS world, they use a couple of different platforms that are pretty well known, Gainsight or Churn Zero. These are platforms that when they're tied to customer health scores, will help you to proactively know what the usage of the software is and the temperature of your customers, so you can proactively deal with them and get them better usage, better consistency, help them to uncover features that they're not using and so forth. Deal with that proactively instead of dealing when the phone call comes in or the email comes in that they want to cancel. And then I just layer on top of that, the other thing that media absolutely should be looking at, and I've done this in non-SaaS companies as well. It's not just SaaS, but we ought to be looking at Net Promoter Score, NPS, right? That's the number many industries are looking at, which is how likely are your customers to recommend your products or services to someone else?
Back in the good old days, when I started Portland.com in Portland, Maine, I registered Portland.com, stay Portland, dine Portland, visit Portland, because Portland, Oregon didn't even know what the internet was. That's how I got, started in the industry, putting one of the first newspapers online. We invented a tool, and I worked with our nerd, that actually allowed an advertiser to update a banner. It was like a fixed position, and I would sell it. So they could go on the internet and log into this little bot. No one did it. I mean, it was hard to get a small business owner to take the time, energy, and effort to do their own work. We had to keep servicing them. But I'm watching these SaaS companies automate, self-service, everything. I mean, I never talked to Dropbox. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm doing all the work. I'm doing the heavy lifting. I'm upgrading my plans. I'm the one, adding new people. Is there a chance that a SaaS platform will get us to get more, automated self-service revenue if we start thinking more like these companies?
So that's a really great question. And I'll give you actually two different thoughts on that. In the SaaS world, there's two primary models that they look at. There's product-led growth and there's sales-led growth. And so let me speak to both of those. So product-led growth is the kind where you find the website, you go to the website, you see the pricing there, you can put in your credit card for a 7-day free trial, and then it will start billing you and everything else. You start the trial, you get the email saying, hey, here's the features, click here to go in and take a look at a quick 30-minute or 30-second, not quick 30-minute, 30-second video or whatever. That's all product-led, things that the software itself is doing to help you to uncover and to use the software differently. And by the way, they've got models that say, if you use this feature, you'll stay longer. If you do it in this amount of time, you'll stay longer, and so forth, right? So product-led growth is about making the product be as usable as possible and help the user to adopt it into their workflow and their daily life and so forth. Sales-led growth starts from that oftentimes, but let's say this. You or I, as a Dropbox user, we start Dropbox on our own. It's going to go through its product-led growth. But suddenly we need 20, 50, 100 licenses. That's never going to happen through product-led growth. That's when sales teams come in. Dropbox has an SMB, a mid-market, an enterprise team. They're going to come in. They're going to say, Mike needs 20 licenses. Todd needs 1,000 licenses. And so they'll have stratified sellers who are going to come in, and they're going to work with you to help you to get those licenses for all your team. And then their customer success team is going to come in and help the entire organization adopt it. So that's the one side. The other side that I want to speak to, though, and this is just me, there'll be many out there who've been very successful at it. We want to think that self-serve platforms are the way to go. Twice now in two different companies, I've adopted self-serve platforms. And while they do work well at getting advertisers in, unfortunately, what I've found is if the advertiser doesn't have someone guiding them, they're typically going to go for the lowest possible spend they can get. And they don't really know what they're looking for as far as the products. And so I have seen higher churn. I've seen self-serve platforms as a way to get them in, but then you still assign a seller to come in and shepherd them. So it becomes more lead gen than anything else. Maybe there are others out there who've done really well with it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but we should make sure that we're thinking about it the right way.
I agree. All right, so we're getting near the end of our journey. I have to cut these things to 20 minutes because if we go longer for some reason, everybody wants it cut at 20 minutes. So there's an old joke that I say when I'm talking about our industry that stays in neutral. I remember back at a Newspaper Association of America, remember then when they used to call themselves that, when the conventions were huge. I remember Guy Kawasaki standing up there. This is when he was talking about Apple. He said, you guys think too much. At Apple, we ship it, then we fix it. That was one of my favorite quotes. But now we're still in that problem of getting this industry to change. I always say, how many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is one, but the light bulb has to want to change in the first place, if you get my drift. So what major mindset shift, as you're analyzing what's working out there and you got you definitely have your heart in this industry. You want to see a sustainable local news model. I know you grew up in it, you love it. What shift do you see media leaders need to make today in order to get into that sustainable mode?
Okay, so we need to stop seeing ourselves as publishers. We need to stop seeing ourselves as media companies. We need to think of ourselves as a platform, right? SaaS platform leaders obsess over customer value, user feedback, their go-to-market motions, and so forth. Newsrooms versus sales is something that has been age old, right? We need to not have those silos. We need cross-functional revenue teams. That's one of the things that we were able to do at Deseret Digital Media so well in our dual transformation model, right? Bringing in all of the parts of the business together to put those models together. Think retention before acquisition. Think long-term value over CPM. think renewals before reach. We need to think differently about what we're doing. And you just referenced Guy Kawasaki and Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy, right? It's the whole Think Different campaign that Apple did. We've got to do things differently than we've done in the past. So every person in the organization should be asking, how are we reducing friction and adding lifetime value?
I believe it was Lord Kelvin, William Thompson, who was quoted, I think, over a century ago. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And then Peter Drucker worked with that, and I think said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You mentioned the initialism KPI. I actually gave a speech at Medill once, and this was years ago, and a professor corrected me. I would say something like KPI and called it an acronym. He said, no, an acronym spells a word. That's an initialism. So I just thought, there's like one person in this audience that knew what initial. Anyway, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. I'm a big believer in that. I've trained more sales reps. I've managed teams all over, big and small. And I believed in metrics, goals, weekly goals. I used to make them sign it. All right, let's just go back to top line revenue. You and I are old sales guys. We've been selling media since the dark ages. If you had to put one KPI up in that sales bullpen right now, today, and get those salespeople to watch it, would it be new business development? Would it be churn? Would it be, what would it be multimedia? Remember the good old days where how many times did you throw a banner ad in what is that KPI in your mind, sir? And shout it out there to the industry.
Yep. So there are many we could choose from, but I'm going to go with NRR, net revenue retention. Okay. NRR is calculated this way. Take your beginning recurring revenue, add in your expansion revenue, subtract your churn revenue and your contraction revenue, divide that by your beginning revenue multiplied by 100. Okay. NRR simply is going to do this. Say you started at $100,000 of monthly recurring revenue and you have $20,000 in expansion revenue, but you've lost $10,000 in churn revenue and you've lost $5,000 in contraction, right? So 100,000 plus 20,000 minus 10 minus 5 divided by 100,000 times 100, it's 105%. 5% growth, right? So 105 NRR. Any NRR over 100% means the company is retaining the same revenue. At 100%, they're retaining the same revenue. Above 100%, they're gaining more revenue from existing customers through upsells and other expansions and so forth than they're losing through churn and contractions. So take net revenue retention, put that over here. Obviously, you've got new logos that you're chasing, but if your existing advertiser base or your existing subscriber base on its own, in and of itself, is growing, you already have a business that is doing well. New logo, you've certainly got to work through that, but NRR for me is one we should be looking at.
Wow, a symphony of initialisms and acronyms in today's episode. Todd, if anyone wants to argue with you, learn more, challenge you, have you got a decent email address people can remember, or a website up where you're posting your thoughts and messages? How do they get a hold of you, sir?
Sure. So if you want to go to the website, it's disruptiveimpact.co. And the email address is simply Todd, Todd, at disruptiveimpact.co.
Todd Handy, a digital media icon, if I may. I know that makes you feel old. Still active in the industry today, but today a consultant, fractional executive, helping organizations rethink growth using modern SaaS principles. Todd, appreciate your time. Let's get you back on the show soon. More importantly, keep up the good fight, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.